Did you know that certain itchy spots or tiny marks on your skin could be silent warning signs of definite cancer? Most people brush them off. It's just dry skin, they say. Or, that's just age. But what if ignoring these signs could cost you the one thing you can't afford to lose? Skin cancer is the most common form of cancer in older adults. And yet it often starts with something so small, so ordinary looking, that it gets missed entirely. Especially among seniors, where skin changes are already expected. These signs often get overlooked. But here's the scary truth. Some of the most deadly forms of cancer start not with pain or bleeding, but with an itch, a discoloration, a spot that just doesn't go away. In this video, we're going to uncover 5 specific spots or itchy areas on the body that every senior should pay attention to. These aren't meant to scare you, they're meant to empower you. Because when it comes to cancer, early detection is everything. And once you know what to look for, you'll be better prepared to protect yourself and the ones you love. So stay with me to the end, because one of these signs might be the clue that helps you catch a serious condition early when it's still treatable. Let's dive in. Number 1, unusual mole growth. One of the clearest and most overlooked cancer warnings in older adults starts with something as small and quiet as a mole. Most of us have them. We've had them for decades. And because we've grown used to them, we stop paying attention. But not all moles are created equal, and some can slowly turn into something far more dangerous than we realize. When you reach your 60s and beyond, your skin becomes less resilient. The protective barrier you had in your 30s and 40s, it starts to wear thin. Sun damage accumulates. Cell regeneration slows. And all those years of exposure, beaches, fishing trips, sunny afternoon walks, they come due. That's why an ordinary-looking mole that begins to change color, shape, or texture should never be dismissed. The medical community often uses something called the ABCDE rule when evaluating moles. Asymmetry, border irregularity, color variation, diameter over 1/4 inch, and evolving over time. And while that sounds a bit technical, what it really means is this. If your mole looks strange, jagged, multicolored, or if it starts growing or itching out of nowhere, it's worth taking seriously, especially if it wasn't doing that before. You see, the tricky part about skin cancer, especially melanoma, is that it doesn't always hurt. It doesn't shout. It doesn't make you feel sick. It simply sits there, growing slowly, quietly. And by the time it starts causing real symptoms, it may have already spread deeper into the skin or even into other parts of the body. What makes this especially dangerous for older adults is the natural tendency to say, "Oh, it's nothing. It's been there for years." That kind of thinking can be comforting until it's not. Because if a mole changes after 70, that's not a coincidence, it's a clue. Now let me share a quick story. I knew a man named Walter, 76 years old, spent most of his retirement golfing in Florida, always wore sunscreen on his face, but ignored the back of his neck and ears. One day, his wife noticed a small, dark mole behind his ear that seemed darker than before. It wasn't painful, didn't itch, but it had a weird edge. He shrugged it off. 6 months later, it turned out to be melanoma. Thankfully, it hadn't spread, and he caught it just in time, but only because someone else was paying attention when he wasn't. So here's what I encourage you to do. Once a month, take a good look at your skin. Use a mirror or ask someone close to you to check those hard-to-see spots, your back, your shoulders, behind your ears. Take pictures if you need to, because it's not just about spotting danger. It's about knowing yourself well enough to notice when something's off. Your skin is talking. It's showing you signs not just for beauty or appearance, but for survival. And an unusual mole that's changing, growing, itching, or just looking different than it used to, that's not vanity, it's vigilance. And that vigilance could save your life. Number 2, persistent itchy patch. There's a big difference between a temporary itch and one that seems to settle in and make itself at home. Most of us have experienced a little irritation here or there, maybe from dry winter air or a new laundry detergent. But what I'm talking about is that one stubborn patch of skin that itches in the same place, day after day, week after week, without any clear reason. No rash, no bug bite, just a small nagging itch that won't go away. At our age, the skin becomes thinner and more sensitive. That's part of life. But here's what many people overlook. Not every itch is innocent. In fact, certain forms of skin cancer, like squamous cell carcinoma or even basal cell carcinoma, can begin as nothing more than a slightly raised, itchy spot. No pain, no bleeding, just an itch. And because it doesn't scream for attention, it often gets ignored. Now let me tell you about a woman named Irene. She was 69 and had a tiny itchy spot on her upper arm. She thought it was a mosquito bite at first. When it didn't go away after 2 weeks, she tried every cream in the cabinet, anti-itch lotion, cortisone, aloe. Still there. Her doctor wasn't concerned, told her it was probably nothing. But Irene had a feeling. She pushed for a biopsy. It turned out to be an early squamous cell carcinoma. Because she caught it early, they removed it easily, and she's doing great today. But what if she'd ignored it? What if she just assumed it was part of getting older? The truth is, catching skin cancer early doesn't require fancy tests or expensive equipment. It requires awareness. It requires curiosity. And yes, it requires a little courage to say, this doesn't feel right. I want it checked. So if you've got an itchy spot that just won't quit, don't ignore it. Don't wait. Make an appointment. Ask a professional. You'd rather be safe and reassured than sorry you waited too long. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, a sore that doesn't heal. Now let's talk about something that's all too common, especially as we age, a sore that just won't go away. Maybe it started as a nick while shaving, or maybe you bumped into something in the garden and figured it would scab over in a few days. But then it lingers. It stays red. It oozes a little, or it crusts and reopens again. And suddenly, what should have been a forgotten scab becomes a frequent visitor that you just can't get rid of. Most of us are used to our skin bouncing back when we're healthy. A scratch, healed in days. A cut, gone in a week. But when your skin doesn't follow the usual playbook, when that little sore just keeps reopening, itching, bleeding, or looking raw, your body might be waving a red flag. This is especially true for parts of the body that get a lot of sun exposure: your face, scalp, ears, arms, neck, or even your hands. Here's the part that's tricky. Many skin cancers, especially basal cell carcinoma, begin this exact way. They show up as a sore that looks minor, like something you wouldn't give a second thought to, but they don't follow the normal rules of healing. Instead, they linger. Sometimes they bleed a little, then stop, only to start again a few days later. And because they aren't painful, many people delay taking action, often for months. The psychology behind this is powerful. We've been conditioned to wait and see, especially with aging. We don't want to be a burden. We don't want to bother the doctor with just a scratch. And sometimes we're even afraid of hearing something serious, so we pretend it's nothing. But the truth is, the longer you wait with a sore that doesn't heal, the more risk you take on. The earlier these things are found, the easier they are to treat and, in many cases, remove completely. Let me share the story of Marvin, a 74-year-old retiree who loved woodworking. One day, he thought he nicked his forehead while sanding a chair. A little scrape, no big deal. But a month passed and it still hadn't healed. His wife kept telling him to get it looked at, but he brushed it off. "I'm just getting older," he said. "My skin's slower now." But finally, at her urging, he saw a dermatologist. They took a biopsy, and sure enough, it was basal cell carcinoma. Fortunately, it hadn't spread, and they were able to remove it cleanly. But had he waited even a few more months, it could have gotten much more serious. The lesson here is simple but vital. If something on your skin isn't healing after 3 weeks, it's time to call in a professional. It doesn't mean it's cancer, but it does mean your body is signaling something unusual, and that's never something to ignore. It's also important to consider where that sore is. Spots that are constantly irritated, like under the waistband, behind the ears, where glasses sit, or where clothing rubs, can be easy to overlook. But just because they're in a tricky spot doesn't mean they're not worth attention. And remember, skin cancer doesn't care if you've always worn sunscreen or never had a burn. It doesn't care if you've lived a healthy life, eaten your veggies, and done all the right things. Cancer shows up when it wants, and our job is to catch it before it gets the upper hand. So next time you see a sore that just keeps sticking around, don't wait. Don't dismiss it. A single appointment can make all the difference between something simple and something serious. You've earned the right to be proactive with your health, and this is one area where early action is the best protection. Number 4, changes in a mole's shape or color. Let's focus now on something you've probably heard about before, but that most people still don't take seriously enough. And that's moles. Not every mole is dangerous, of course. Many of us have had them since we were young, and we learn to live with them like they're freckles or birthmarks. But here's the truth, it's not the moles you've had for years that pose the greatest risk. It's the ones that change quietly, gradually in shape, size, or color, and those changes are often overlooked until it's too late. Skin cancer, especially melanoma, can hide in plain sight. Unlike a painful lump or an itchy rash, a changing mole doesn't always call attention to itself. But when it does shift, growing larger, developing uneven edges, darkening, or even lightening in parts, your body may be trying to tell you something urgent. There's a rule that dermatologists swear by called the ABCDE rule. If you've never heard it before, it's worth remembering. A is for asymmetry. If one half of your mole doesn't match the other, that's a warning sign. B is for border, if the edges are jagged or blurred. C is for color, if there's more than one shade or it changes over time. D is for diameter. Anything bigger than a pencil eraser should be checked. And E is for evolving, if it changes in any way, especially quickly. Now you might be thinking, but I'm in my 60s or 70s and my skin's full of spots. And that's true for many seniors. Over time, our skin accumulates sun damage, freckles, liver spots, and more. That's why it's even more important at this stage of life to know what's normal for you and what's new or different. Psychologically, many people dismiss mole changes because they don't hurt. But cancer doesn't have to hurt to be dangerous. In fact, some of the most deadly forms of melanoma start painlessly. They're sneaky. They develop over weeks or months, often on the back, the scalp, or the back of the leg, places we don't even look at often. That's why regular skin checks, even with the help of a partner, spouse, or mirror, can be life-saving. Let me share the story of Teresa, a 68-year-old grandmother who loved gardening. She had a small mole on her left calf for years, but one summer her granddaughter noticed it looked funny. It had grown darker, the edges were jagged, and it was slightly raised. Teresa hadn't paid much attention to it. She figured it was just getting darker with age. But her granddaughter insisted she get it looked at. It turned out to be an early-stage melanoma. Because they caught it early, it was removed completely with no further treatment needed. Teresa says to this day that her granddaughter saved her life. That's how subtle it can be. A small spot, a tiny change, a moment of hesitation. That's all it takes to let something dangerous grow quietly. And when we reach our later years, our immune system isn't always as strong as it once was. Cancer cells that might have been caught and destroyed in our youth can now slip through undetected. Here's something many don't know. Not all skin cancers happen in sun-exposed areas. They can show up on the soles of the feet, under the fingernails, even in places that almost never see sunlight. That's why the idea of a safe mole is misleading. The better question is this mole behaving the way it always has? If not, it's time to check in with your doctor or dermatologist. You've come this far in life because of your strength, your resilience, and your wisdom. You've survived storms and heartaches, raised families, worked hard, and earned every gray hair on your head. Don't let something as small as a mole sneak past your awareness. Your body is your ally. It gives you signals, and those signals are often quiet but clear if you pay attention. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5, persistent itching or bleeding on one spot. Some signs on our skin demand more than just a passing glance. And this next one, though often brushed off, is one of the most dangerously underestimated warning signs of cancer. Persistent itching or bleeding, especially from a spot that hasn't healed in weeks, can be the body's cry for help. It might not seem serious at first. Maybe it just feels like dry skin. Maybe you think it's a bug bite that won't go away. But if it lingers, it deserves your full attention. Here's why this matters. Our skin is a barrier. When it breaks or becomes inflamed, the body usually rushes in to repair it, healing a cut, calming a rash, stopping an itch. But cancer cells don't play by the same rules. When a cancerous growth begins to form, it may interfere with that healing process. It may cause inflammation, triggering your body's itch response. It might affect tiny blood vessels under the surface, leading to unexplained bleeding. And unlike a typical scab or scrape, these spots don't fade or repair. They just keep coming back. You see, the danger here isn't the itch or the blood itself. It's the fact that it doesn't stop. That lingering symptom is what separates cancer from common skin irritation. An itchy spot that always returns to the same area, or a patch that bleeds even without scratching, is not something to wait and see about. Let's bring this down to earth with a real-world story. Alan, a 75-year-old retired bus driver from Ohio, thought he had a pesky rash on the side of his neck. He scratched it here and there, but it didn't hurt, and he figured it was dry skin. His wife noticed it was bleeding slightly some mornings, but Alan didn't think much of it. He used lotion. He applied hydrocortisone, but it kept itching. Eventually, during a routine physical, his doctor looked at it and sent him to a dermatologist. The diagnosis? Squamous cell carcinoma. Thankfully, it hadn't spread, but the doctor told Alan that if he'd waited a few more months, the treatment would have been far more aggressive. Now, this is important. Not every itch is cancer, but persistent, unexplained itching or bleeding from a particular spot, especially if it hasn't healed after 3 weeks, is something you need to talk to your doctor about. Seniors especially can have thinner, more sensitive skin. We bruise more easily, we scratch without realizing it, and we often dismiss symptoms thinking, that's just old age. But sometimes it's not. There's also a psychological component at play. Many older adults don't want to bother the doctor over something small. They're used to toughing things out. But being tough doesn't mean ignoring your body's signals. It means having the courage to speak up, even when it seems minor. Another overlooked factor is that cancer doesn't always show up where you'd expect. You might assume only sun-exposed areas are at risk, but persistent bleeding or itching can occur anywhere. On the scalp, the back, the chest, the lower legs. Some people notice the bleeding starts during sleep, leaving small blood stains on their pillow or clothing. Others find that the itching disrupts their sleep or flares up during warmer months. This symptom, when paired with other subtle clues like rough texture, changes in skin color, or a growing bump, should never be ignored. Because in so many cases, early detection is what makes the biggest difference. Skin cancers that are found early are almost always treatable, and many are curable. But the longer you wait, the harder it gets. And here's a thought worth holding on to: paying attention isn't being paranoid. It's being wise. Your skin is your story. It tells where you've been, what you've weathered, and sometimes what might lie ahead. Learning to read that story isn't vanity. It's self-respect. So next time you feel that itch in the same spot for the 3rd week in a row, or you see that tiny red dot bleeding for no reason, pause. Take a moment. Make a call. It might be the best decision you've made in years. Final thoughts. We often think of warning signs as something dramatic: a sudden collapse, a sharp pain, a flashing light in the dark. But more often than not, the body whispers before it screams. It starts small. A tiny dot, a rough patch. And in those moments, we face a choice: dismiss it or pay attention. For those of us in our 60s, 70s, and 80s, that choice becomes more important than ever, because we know our bodies better than anyone. We know when something feels off. We know when something's not healing like it used to. And deep down, we also know when it's time to listen. The signs we talked about today, those strange, persistent spots, aren't just skin issues. They're potential life messages. They remind us that even the smallest change matters. And more importantly, that your health, your body, and your peace of mind are worth protecting. Too many of us, especially in our later years, downplay things. We tell ourselves it's nothing, that we're just being dramatic, that we'll wait a bit longer to see what happens. But I've seen it over and over again. Those who act early, those who trust their instincts, are often the ones who catch things before they grow, who save themselves a world of pain, and sometimes who save their own lives. You've made it this far in life for a reason. You've survived heartache, hardship, and more than a few bumps in the road. Don't let hesitation stand between you and the health you deserve. You are worth being taken seriously, and the earlier you act, the better your chances. So let's end with a bit of clarity. These signs don't mean you're doomed, but they do mean you need to pay attention. And by doing so, you take back control over your health, over your future, and over the years you've worked so hard to enjoy. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.